With the announcement of Dragon's Dogma 2, I decided it was finally time to go back and play Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. I've always wanted to play it, but just never got around to it for one reason or another. I put about 30 hours in before completion. There's still a lot of stuff I haven't seen, a lot of stuff I haven't done, but I'm pretty sure that someday I'll go back and complete it all before the second game comes out. I played a good majority though, and what a treat it was. So, I figured I'd go ahead and make a video talking about why you should be excited for Dragon's Dogma 2. The original Dragon's Dogma came out all the way back in 2012, and then Dark Arisen released in 2013, but the game didn't make its way onto PC until 2016. I remember wanting to play it back when it first released, but I wasn't super sold. I didn't have to have it. Then, over the years, I kept hearing great things about it, piquing my interest time and time again, but I never pulled the trigger. I'm glad I finally did. The Soulsborne series is my favorite and probably always will be my favorite action RPG series. However, Dragon's Dogma is a truly fantastic gem, and I'm happy putting it in the second seat for my favorite action RPG. The thing that surprised me about Dragon's Dogma is just how Dungeons and Dragons like it is. Party makeup and all that stuff is important. The way encounters are handled, it really reminds me of a tabletop RPG. And I thought that was really cool, but I'll get into that in a bit. The story in Dragon's Dogma isn't really anything to write home about. It's passable, but honestly a bit more interesting to me than a lot of fantasy RPGs. It's less fantastical and more focused on the people. If they choose to go this route for 2, then I think it's very much a fine way to take it. But what I really would like to see carried over from the first to the second game is the way that side quests or subplots are handled. I was thoroughly impressed. There are bounty board missions that are your standard go kill X amount of whatever monster, escort quests, and the like. It's very standard for those older, early 2010 RPG games. Where it really shined was the actual character plots. There are some very well written and engaging side characters that you can delve into. The specific part that I want to return to too is how they intertwine with the main plot. A lot of the side quests come back to be important in the main quest. You'll actually miss out on some story build up to the characters for the main quest if you miss their side quests. It's very well done. I would mess around, do a side quest that I thought had no relevance, and later on down the line, that character would have a big moment that was directly tied to the game's progression. That's what really surprised me about Dragon's Dogma. The choices in this game aren't thrown into your face like most RPG titles. Another thing that I was actually taken aback by in the game was player controlled decisions. You don't choose from a dialogue tree. You don't sit and make a choice and then watch it happen. After a cutscene plays out, you're thrown back in control to make the decision. You choose how to act with the mechanics that you've been using the entire time. I wish that more RPG games would do this. This is what player choice should be, in my opinion. It's fine to have some dialogue options or in cutscene decisions, but for the most part, I want to play out my choice. I don't want to watch it. I really hope that this carries over into 2, and I think it will. And we've already seen from the trailers that Dragon's Dogma 2 is going to be a very pretty game, but Dark Arisen was beautiful in its own right for me, so I'm excited to see the world and game in an engine to absolutely blow the first game out of the water. I'm not a graphics snob by any means, but it's always nice when a game is pretty on top of being fun, you know? The actual gameplay in Dragon's Dogma is the part that looks like it's going to be improved upon, but mostly stay the same in 2, at least from the trailers. And that's a good thing. The combat in Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen is refreshing. It's well done fantasy action combat, minus a dodging system, but I don't mind that. I chose to play as a sorcerer for my playthrough, mainly because I had always seen how crazy magic was in Dragon's Dogma. I'm not usually one to take up playing a mage, but it was very fun for this game. If you're playing a sword and board character, however, it's not boring either. I got to briefly get my hands on one during the tutorial. Not only are you swinging around and able to do really fun stuff with multiple skills or moves, but you can also climb onto larger monsters and attack their weak points. It's not just hack and slash, it's not just numbers flying on the screen, it's engaging combat. You have an HP bar and a stamina bar. Virtually everything you do, sprinting, attacking, using skills, knocks down on your stamina bar. The cool part, specifically playing as a magic user, is that your magic is also tied to the stamina bar. It's not like a separate MP bar or anything, and I really like that. Everyone is tied to the same resources, it's just how you use them that's different. Playing as a sorcerer is a great way to feel powerful. At the start of the game, it was kind of rough. Casting time was a problem, and the return for such low damage spells early on was eh. But once you get your hands on higher tier spells by leveling up your vocation, you really start to see just how awesome magic is. Casting time is still really long. You're going to need to rely on either good positioning, which is unlikely, or more realistically, your pawns. Letting off a tornado or meteors more than makes up for that casting time, especially since it's actually powerful. The return you get damage wise is incredible and satisfying. Being able to completely obliterate large foes in a single meteor shower is chef's kiss, magnifique. Due to the vocation system on top of standard leveling, it's also a treat. I really love the skill systems and vocation stuff in Dragon's Dogma. All of this I'm hoping to see return and expanded upon. It's just great. Like a fighter, the mage just picks spells instead of skills, using points they get for doing stuff in the game. I really love that there's nothing convoluted or different about picking a mage or sorcerer. Again, everyone has the same tools, it's just how that shows up in the game and manifests in that specific class. This also works for your main pawn. So, with that being said, it's time to talk about probably the biggest draw or talking point for Dragon's Dogma. This is the real why you should be excited for Dragon's Dogma 2. Near the start of the game, you get to create your main pawn. This is a party member that will always be with you. They're tailor made in the character creator, and their vocation is chosen by you. You can then summon 2 other pawns to help you out. These other pawns are actually made by other players. You can recruit them by spending points, or some are free. This is a really cool concept. You can't just make 3 pawns to help you out, you have to recruit others for help. It feels like an actual adventuring guild brought to life, and it's awesome. This is also where the combat and rest of the game really shines and comes together. You need to think about party composition, you have to plan. This is the Dungeons and Dragons party planning you always do before you start up a campaign. I was a sorcerer, so it was imperative that I have some frontline pawns to grab aggro and distract enemies so I could cast my high damaging spells. And I also opted for a strider that was like an archer and assassin all in one. The pawns are actually pretty smart. They have some dumb moments, but the simple commands you can give usually set them straight. But for the most part, they take care of business. They'll draw aggro for groups of monsters, they'll use their skills and abilities, and they'll even climb large monsters to keep them in place. Not only are they super useful in combat, but they'll actually help lead you to quests and such. They'll give you hints, they'll add something about the world. It's a lot more in depth than I was expecting. Your pawns can go down or die, but you can revive them if they're not fully dead or just go back to a rift and resummon them. Your main pawn can also die, but the moment you touch one of these rifts, they'll come right back. The pawns are good enough to make you feel like you're actually playing with other players, and that's cool. I love this system, and they're saying the AI is going to be way better. That seems like a focus, and I'm all for it in Dragon's Dogma 2. This is what truly makes it stand out in the action RPG genre. It's unique and fun. Party members usually just feel like an accessory. They kind of help, but they're never that great. At least in most of the RPG games I've played, save for turn-based ones where you're actively controlling and making choices for everyone. Dragon's Dogma stands apart from the other games that have wonky characters by your side that throw a spell or just walk around. Maybe the enemies don't aggro to them, stuff like that. It handles the biggest problem I have with most of these games. You feel lonely despite having a party to back you up. Dragon's Dogma doesn't feel that way for me. It feels like you're on an adventure with a party of people that help you as much as you help them. And that's just awesome. A few things to note about the gameplay that I assume will be worked out with 2. I wasn't a super huge fan of how many random enemies there were on the roads. It can get a little grating, especially considering that you do have to walk pretty much everywhere unless you set up ways to use the fairy stone at each point of interest. That's fine, but I wish you could explore and traverse the world without a fight every 5 seconds. It feels like a DM that rolls random encounters every time the players breathe. Fight some goblins here, some bandits there, maybe a pack of wolves or harpies, it's just too much. Especially considering the lack of different environments. It's pretty much all forest with some dungeons. It's okay, it's not bad, but always running into monsters in the forest, along with some of the very few mountainous areas, just got draining. Every encounter started to get samey. The menus and stuff for the most part are good, but the encumbrance system would get a little annoying even though you can pass off items onto party members. I wasn't able to really loot areas effectively without sitting in menus for long periods of time. There were some good weird things that happened though, like big monsters slipping off of cliffs or straight up jumping off like doofuses. It led to some laughs and was very welcome. I hope they don't fix that for 2. There's just some dated stuff in Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, but that's to be expected. It's an old game. I was just blown away by how complete, by how competent the actual game was while being so old. With the ability to improve the AI and pawn system, the advancements we've made with modern gaming, Dragon's Dogma 2 is a game that any RPG fan should keep on their radar. If you're a fan of just good games too, I'd say keep an eye on it. We still don't have a definite release date, but if you've got the chance and don't mind some old school roughness, I'd say go play Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. It keeps getting thrown on sale, so when it does, I'd say pick it up and give it a go. It's not an exceedingly long RPG. It's not going to eat up your time like some 100-hour large scale games. It's a compact, complete package with a surprising amount of content and replay value to keep you coming back for more. It's a game I wholeheartedly recommend. But if you're just waiting for 2, that's fine in my book. I'd say check out some videos on it or something. It's worth it and will probably get you more hyped if you're already into it from the Dragon's Dogma 2 trailers. I'm looking forward to the second game. I'm looking forward to playing more Dark Arisen. This game is Gucci in my book. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think about Dragon's Dogma, and are you excited for 2? If you did enjoy the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be notified of future uploads. Plenty more content to come. Anyways, I'm out. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.